Okay, let's go ahead and get started as people continue to pop in. Welcome to the Future of CRM with SAP and VASS webinar. We're happy to have you here today. What you're going to see here today is the first of a series that we plan to cover. Today will be a higher level overview of a series that we plan to do for the rest of the year, where we'll dive deeper into sales, service, and other elements of CRM. But today we hope to present to you a really good overview and a demo of some of the key capabilities within CRM with some of our experts. Related to housekeeping, we have a few things we want to talk about. So first of all, sound is on for all of you. So if you do have a question, please make sure that you unmute yourself and ask the question. We'll come into different areas of the presentation where we'll have opportunities for Q&A. But if you don't want to vocalize your question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A in the navigation, which is up at the top. And we will be monitoring that throughout, and we can ask your question there. Also, please make sure you are muted if you are not asking a question. And we will take questions at the end of the session as well. So there will be time for that is reserved if you have questions that are not answered throughout the course of the webinar. And then I think that we have a good set of attendees right now. So with that, I would love to hand over to Amit Venugopal, who is our CRO of Americas for VASS, and he will begin the session for us. Thanks everyone for being here today.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you, Madison, for organizing this. Welcome, everyone. Today's session will be with Surajit Ghosh from SAP and Brian Kaiser as well from SAP and myself. As Jody mentioned, my name is Amit. I'm the Managing Director and Chief Revenue Officer for VASS in Americas. Been an SAP exponent proponent for many, many years now. And, I'm happy to be here with SG and Brian. So let me ask SG to introduce himself and Brian, and then we will go through the agenda. SG?
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Surajit Ghosh, go by the nickname of SG. Chief expert at SAP, have a dual role, one part of the CX Solution Advisory Organization. And I work with very large enterprises to design and help them with their North Star enterprise architecture. So that could mean CRM and with customer experience portfolio. How do you work with the SAP cloud stack with BTP, and then how do you actually help customers move from, let's say, ECC to S4 connected to CX? So that's one part of my role. And the other is I work very closely with the AI organization in SAP. I'm part of the SAP AI Black Belt team, because that's the other big transformation which we are seeing. And you'll see some glimpses of that later today on how we are using AI and helping AI to transform the landscape. Been with SAP for 16 plus years, and in this domain of CRM and SD, probably 20 plus years. So happy to share some of my insights in today's call.
Thank you, SG. Brian?
Yep. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Kaiser. I'm a principal solution engineer at SAP. Been here for about 14 years. And what I do is I try to understand the issues that our customers are going through and mapping those issues back to the value that we can provide. I'm a specialist when it comes to our customer data platform, as well as our sales and service solutions. So it's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to showing you all a little bit of sales and service today.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so moving on to the agenda that we want to cover today, and the goal is to go through content, fairly quickly in 40 to 45 minutes, and leave enough time for Q&A towards the end. But we will start with a little bit of SAP CRM. So for folks that are SAP CRM knowledgeable, have been here for a while, have implemented on-premise SAP solutions, we'll take a look at, the history of SAP CRM over the last, let's say, 20 plus years. And we will move on with the case for cloud. So why are customers choosing to transform in the cloud, especially when you look at customer experience, and why SAP? So SG will cover that. We'll do not a deep demo of SAP Sales and Service Cloud, but at least I would call it a teaser demo, which gives you kind of a flavor of where SAP is going with user experience and some of the capabilities that they're innovating with in the cloud. And Brian will cover that. When it comes to 2B architecture and the fifth one, which is the things to consider, SG and I will tag team and we'll talk about, what could be potential architectures and how do you actually move from an on-prem architecture that you might have today to kind of the cloud architecture from SAP. So that's most of the meat of today. And as Jody mentioned, these will all offshoot into further webinars where we can dig deeper into each of these topics, again, based on interest. But those will come in at over the next 3 to 4 months. All right. So quick hark over SAP CRM over the years. Going left to right over here, SAP CRM was born in the late 1990s, right? So back then, SAP had only one GUI, which was SAP GUI, the thick client that everyone knows and has used, in some shape or form. But SAP created CRM on premise. It was all on premise software back then. You had to install it on your own servers, and at that time you might even have a managed, outsourced data center, and you would install your SAP software on the servers over there. But the solution was very well adopted by especially SAP customers because of its tight integration between SAP ECC or ERP back then, or even R3 back then, and SAP CRM. There was a tight integration, both master data and transactional data, so you could do a quote to cash process starting from CRM and ending in your ERP. In the mid 2000s, there was this push to kind of make the system easier to use, to have better user experiences, and SAP introduced what we call as the Web UI. And the Web UI framework, was very widely adopted. It became extremely popular, actually pushing SAP to be the #1 CRM software in the industry back in 2010. And from that point onwards, SAP decided to, okay, make a change. We have to, go into the cloud. That's where most of the, CX innovation is happening with a host of other vendors in the marketplace. So there was this push to recreate kind of the CRM capabilities in the cloud. And back in 2011, 2012 became kind of the first push to move, or to rebuild CRM in the cloud. And this was, not an easy job for SAP, because CRM on premise, why did it even become the #1 market solution is because of its rich functionality, not just, its, the fact that we innovated with the user experience, but also the fact that it was a full featured function. Capability of all CRM functions that anyone could ever want was available in CRM. So to recreate that in the cloud did take its own journey. And SAP continued to build out the cloud and from 2012 onwards, and CRM became more kind of maintenance, right? Yes, enhancement packs were released by SAP, but there was not a lot of innovation in the on-prem world, and this all moved into the cloud. And of late, it's well known that SAP CRM is officially being sunsetted with the whole SAP Business Suite, as it used to be called, ECC as well, in 2027. Some customers, if they would so choose to, can buy extended support until 2030, but essentially at the end, by 2030, CRM on-premise will no longer be supported by SAP, and you would have to move into a cloud-based solution. SAP or non-SAP, right? That's a customer's choice. But right here, we are to talk about how you can innovate with SAP. So what were some of the likes and dislikes of the SAP CRM functionality? And this is kind of leading to as to why did SAP innovate in the cloud? The likes are, fairly well known. If there's any, folks on the call here with the CRM background, you would know that it was very rich in functionality and capabilities. One solution that covered sales, service, and marketing use cases, albeit not, the strongest on the marketing side, but at least there was a marketing solution within the stack. There was deep integration with ECC. So as I mentioned, SAP customers found it, useful to go with a SAP-based CRM solution, thanks to all of the integration using what was back then called CRM middleware. You didn't need, an external middleware solution. CRM middleware would allow you to do that. And there was extreme customizability. So there was the ability to really build anything you wanted, because the ABAP platform or the NetWeaver platform allowed you to extend the solution with bodies, with enhancement spots, and there was the web UI framework where you could build new user experiences. So very robust from that perspective, on-prem software that you could essentially do anything with. And at the end of the day, there was a best-in-class quoting and service solution that came out of the box, right? So service was very widely adopted functionality with the interaction center and the course field service management solutions. There was really great adoption there. The tech stack itself, as I mentioned, ABAP, very familiar to the SAP community. So it was, again, easy for SAP proponents to really pick this up and extend it themselves. But with those likes, there were certain, downsides of having on-prem. One was, as we all know, in the on-prem world, regular patching is needed. You have to upgrade it yourself. It wasn't something that SAP provided as a service, as software as a service typically, gets upgraded on a schedule, and you don't have to go through that. But in an on-prem world, clearly you had to patch and upgrade your solutions yourself. The pace of innovation was definitely not, up to par with industry standards. SAP would release, enhancement packs maybe once a year. So, you'd have to wait a year to really adopt any innovation. User experience was not best in class, right? It was great to have the web client, but also at the same time, it was not necessarily the best in class user experience because of the constant innovation that was happening in the world. Solution was not performing the best according to certain other SaaS solutions. So if you look at high volume scenarios, you had to really make sure you were optimizing your solutions to the best possible way to really make it perform well. All solutions in one resulted in incomplete functions. As I mentioned, yes, on the positive side, you had sales, service, and marketing, but also the downside was it was not best in class in marketing, especially, and in certain cases also on sales. So, there was lacking certain innovation in those functions. Mobility didn't come out of the box. You had to build it yourself or, buy an add-on or, something else. So, which was, not necessarily something, you assume CRM solutions come with a mobile app. And there were not many integrated third-party add-ons, right? You had to really, every integration was a custom integration. There wasn't really a framework to integrate third parties inside of SAP CRM. So those were some of the, downsides, and which resulted, of course, in SAP, going towards the cloud. So what happened next, right? As I mentioned, 2010, 2011, SAP started building out their cloud strategy for CRM, and they called it SAP Customer Experience. Well, it wasn't called SAP Customer Experience back then, but now it has evolved to be SAP Customer Experience, and it covers everything from sales, service, customer data, customer engagement, and commerce. And it's fully aligned to back office processes like it was in the on-prem days. So you can have a quote to cash process, you can have an end-to-end service process, you can have multi-channel from commerce front ends flowing data back into your SAP backends, whatever version you're on. So all of that capability SAP kept consistent and is still supporting end-to-end business processes. But having said that, they have really evolved into a multi-stack product, where sales and service is in one platform, which SG will cover. And customer data, customer engagement, commerce happen to be separate solutions. Commerce, as everyone knows, was an acquisition called Hybris, but now it's really SAP Commerce fully integrated into this entire stack. So that's how SAP has evolved, and it's been a journey over the last, I'd say, 10 years of kind of building out SAP CX, and it's a really excellent solution at this moment. So at this point, that was kind of, where SAP CRM was, and now I'm going to have SG cover the next step as to why SAP CX.
Thank you, Amit. So I would leave you with three big thoughts here in this section. The first thought is, yes, you would need functionality. So for example, in Sales Cloud, it would have all your classical functionality around productivity, guided selling from lead management to opportunity management. How do you actually work along with your team, both pre-sales and post-sales? Because we are living in a world where once you sell also, you'll have to focus a lot on adoption and helping your customers grow. Then how do you actually work with native mobile experience and digital sales engagements, and let's say inside sales team, not just your key account management, not just your field sales, like a retail execution, but also an inside sales team. And then how do you go about doing your forecasting and pipeline management? So these are functionality. Similarly, if you move into the world of service, you will have your agent desktop where you can do an omni-channel experience with whatever channels you're working with as a customer service team, then go through your end-to-end case management, so designing a case and designing the workflows, a queue management and working on a case, escalating that case, integrating that with field service management or different application, and then how do you actually work with your end-to-end S4 or ECC from an end-to-end process perspective. But the catch here is if you think about the world of older technologies, so it could be on-prem CRM, it could be the traditional cloud applications, which is there in the market for CRM. As the challenge is, they were all designed for a generation where change was very minimal. And if you ask me, the one big thing which comes from case for cloud is your ability to change in a rapid manner, in an agile manner, both internally and externally. So what do I mean by that? You would have different user experiences for different personas in your sales team or your service team. The new Sales and Service Cloud V2 allows you to actually have those experiences wherever you are. The second big aspect is for your IT organizations, the ability to push in very powerful innovations and upgrades. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the architecture section. But the fact that this is a cloud native microservice driven architecture allows your business to gain from the very rapid innovations which we'll have. As an example, and you'll see some of this in the demo, but from the extensibility perspective and the APIs and the scalability and the adaptability, you would see a lot of these benefits going forward when it comes to Sales and Service Cloud. One of them is obviously your sales as an AI domain. So for example, think about it like lead intelligence or deal intelligence or sentiment analysis. And there are lots more coming in the roadmap when it comes to, for example, we are using generative AI right now to do account synopsis and case summarization for service. And how do you actually do categorization of that? Now, the catch here is it's not just the functionality, it's the speed at which we are rolling out these innovations because of the underlying platform of being cloud native. And the other aspect of this is you as a customer, when you move from the traditional world of CRM on-prem to the new cloud version, or even look at an older cloud stack and move into the new cloud stack, it gives you the opportunity to infuse those innovations and different business models. I'll give you an example. So let's say you were selling a machine, but now you're not just selling a machine, you're selling services, you're selling service contracts, you're selling maintenance plans, you're selling subscriptions on those services. How do you actually have different user experience? How do you actually infuse various innovations and process flows? And how do you actually infuse innovations like AI in that transformation? And that is why is the case for cloud. The case for cloud is not just the operational and the TCO benefits. The case for cloud is not just for rolling out new functionality very easily. It's given, all of that is given, but it's also the speed and rapidity with which you will be able to do these transformations and manage those cases and changes. With that, I think Brian will be able to give you a brief glimpse of what does it mean from a solution and experience standpoint. And the goal obviously is we'll happy to do deeper dives in subsequent webinars on these topics.
Perfect. Thanks, SG. All right, guys, I am going to go through here relatively quickly. As SG mentioned, I'm going to first take you through this from a Sales Cloud version 2 perspective. Then we're going to pivot it over to a Service Cloud version 2 point of view. So first and foremost, I'm looking at this through the eyes of a salesperson. And what I'm able to do is I can call up a few things. Obviously, I've got some quick links here. I can see things like my lead summaries, my conversion rates, and so forth. But what I want to do is I want to show you what it looks like to get a quick glimpse of all of my leads, right? So this is one of the ways that I can view this. Obviously, I can come in here and look at this by source, status, qualification, and other types of criteria if necessary. But I want you to pay attention with which the speed in which the information is being generated, right? So if I open up this quick lead that I built just for this demo, just to save us a little bit of time, you're going to see this is a new view of what a lead can look like. And as you can see, this information over here on the left, this is kind of the high level detail around this particular lead. This information on the right is kind of the meat of this information, right? So in terms of give me different types of suggestions in which I can utilize to kind of usher this lead to go forward. So this is all in an effort to help this salesperson move this lead up to an opportunity, for example. I can do things like put in notes if necessary. I can even see I have a document flow that is going to showcase the lead with correlated activities. You can also see on the left-hand side the type of engagement that I've had with this particular lead over time. So it gives me a very quick rundown to do that type of synopsis, but also you can embed different types of playbooks to help your salesperson move and progress that lead forward. So as you can see, if I wanted to move it to this step, I need to specify why I'm moving it to this. So all of this data is obviously reportable, so I can have that if I need to. But again, just to save us all a little bit of time, I'm going to quickly convert this to an opportunity. So I've got this information. Everything else looks good. We'll just say that this is going to be a $120,000 opportunity. Everything else looks pretty good. And I've even had this Multi-Eco Pro flow, I guess, product right here embedded for the opportunity. So I'm just going to simply hit save and open. So I've converted that lead quickly and easily from a lead to an opportunity, right? And so I can see when the close date is, I can, see any other type of information. If I wanted to build a quick activity, it should be as easy as clicking create appointment. And obviously we can leverage an embedded Teams integration here as well. But if I just wanted to go ahead and create this appointment very quickly, I just hit save and I'm done. So there's the appointment. Here it is. So we don't want a lot of time slipping away or any other tabs that pop up based on how a salesperson needs to move through a particular opportunity. Now you'll also see that I have different types of suggested activities that I can look at based on the stage of this opportunity itself. And this goes back to an embedded playbook. A lot of sales organizations that I work with, they want to embed different types of sales processes like the Challenger process or the Sandler process, for example. So you're able to embed all of those different steps in your overall opportunity management process so that you as a salesperson you're going to follow the same type of steps that somebody who might have been hired last week is going to follow. So you're creating a standardization so there are no more lone wolves and there's no more confusion around what needs to happen in order to move a deal towards closure. Now, what I also wanted to do is I really quickly wanted to go ahead and create a sales quote. So when I create this quote, you can see it's going to pull forward a lot of that information that was already part of that lead, that was already part of that opportunity, and it's going to pre-fill it in automatically. Now, this data, the pricing is pulled in this specific example from a price list that I've uploaded into the tool, but coming from S4 or even ECC, we can dynamically pull pricing from the back end of SAP S4HANA or SAP ECC if we needed to. But again, for the purposes of time, I'm just going to go ahead and save and open this particular quote. And as you can see, I've got this information here. I've even got an overarching timeline. What I also want you to notice is I've got the ability to go ahead and forward this in and create a sales order in SAP S4HANA. So all I have to do here is hit this plus icon, right? And what's going to happen is it's going to create that external sales order in a matter of seconds. So if I just go ahead and refresh my screen, it's already done. So I'm timing myself over here in 4 minutes and 53 seconds. I was able to go from a lead all the way to a quote, all the way to an order in S4HANA. And so let me actually just go back to this opportunity and I'll showcase that same document flow. And I'm actually going to pop over here. So you can see based on where we were at a lead, we jumped to an opportunity. I even built in a quick appointment and a quote. And if I click on this little one, this is our external reference to that sales order that was created into the backend. So it looks like I've got 2 more minutes. I can show you guys a couple other things from a sales perspective. So opportunity management is one thing. SG kind of alluded to this when he was talking a little bit earlier. I showed you a singular opportunity. You should also be able to see all of your opportunities that you're managing in a Kanban view. So it's obviously a little bit different than the CRM days, but I can see all of my opportunities at different relative stages. And if I needed to move something from this stage, the qualify opportunity stage, to develop value proposition, I don't want to click into it and manually change it. I just simply want to drag and drop it over. Right. And so that's kind of the element that we're bringing in, is saving sales reps time, because as we all know, lost time is never found again. And when it comes to managing my pipeline, if I go over here to what we call the pipeline manager, now I'm able to see all different types of opportunities at whatever type of timeline. So if I want to look at this in Q3, I can see that. If I want to take a look back into Q2, I can see that. So all of the different circles, by the way, they're representative of different types of opportunities. So the size of the deal is in direct correlation with the amount of the opportunity. The color is in direct correlation with the machine learning score of the opportunity as well. And obviously the plots on the line is based on their close dates, right? So these are actually closing in the past, so I might need to look at those. Or if I'm a manager, maybe I want to drill into these bottom ones, right? And then it's going to give me the individual breakdown here. So I may need to quickly have a chat with a sales rep to ask, hey, what are you doing here? Or what are you doing there? Right, that's one way to view. We can also help by managing the forecast as well. So by me coming in here to kind of look at the overall forecast to see which deals are in or out of the forecast, and simply by toggling an opportunity in, brings it into the forecast, toggling it out, takes it out. Right, so that was a very fast rundown. Obviously, there's a ton more I can show you, but I wanted to take briefly 7 minutes to show you Sales Cloud. Now, if I swap over here, again, we're pivoting views now. Now I'm going to look at this from a service agent's view. Okay, so one of the things the service agent needs to do is they need to understand who are they talking to. So I don't have time to call myself on the phone very quickly, but as soon as someone does call, it's going to do these steps that I'm showing you automatically. So let's say Joe Wills calls in from CBOT Industries. I'm going to say, okay, Joe, who are you with? What is your phone number? Right, if I type in Joe, I can sort of confirm these details here. And I can go ahead and click on the confirm button. This is going to take me to what we call this agent desktop view, which is going to show me all things correlated to Joe Wills. So I've got CBOT Industries, all of the information that I need over here from a high level on the left. The middle are all the different types of touch points that we have around CBOT as well. So in terms of when was the last time we made a call, right? And this is that opportunity that I just created as well, right? So I can see all of these different things that are going on for this particular account. I can even pull in a knowledge base as well if I needed to, right? Or manage a specific interaction. One of the other things that I'll showcase is that it's valuable to pull in all different types of detail and all different types of data. So what about being able to pull in SAP S/4HANA transactions that have happened and to help the customer in the moment? So for example, if the customer calls up, says, hey, I have a question about an outbound delivery. Well, as an agent, I shouldn't have to stop what I'm doing, log into another system and figure that out. We want to eliminate the swiveling of the chair, right, for service agents and allow you to have a clean pane of glass to see not only the CRM transactions, but also things like outbound deliveries, service orders, debit or credit memos. I can see all of that information that's correlated to this account from one single screen. Now, again, one of the other things I wanted to pull up very quickly is I created, again, to save us a little bit of time, a specific case. So in SAP Service Cloud version 2, we actually call it a case. And what I've done is, again, I've saved us a little bit of time. I created a case for this particular account, and I did it based on that 33i multi-eco pump. But on the left-hand side, again, this shows me high-level detail as it relates to this particular case. Down below is my SLA for this case, or service level agreement. In the middle is pretty interesting because this is showcasing the phases of the case, right, as well as the corresponding steps within each phase. So think about this for a second. A lot of time and effort is spent on agents in terms of training them up. But what we wanted to create was a case flow, and it will change and vary based upon the type of case that you're utilizing, but a case flow that is easy for someone to follow so that he or she knows what they need to do in order to complete that case, as well as leveraging things like generative AI for a case description or generative AI to send out an email. All of that is embedded in the tool itself here. But for example, it says that in the second phase of the case, step 1 is looking at articles. So I could pull in detail around, pumps from a partner vendor. So for example, I'm showcasing an integration into a tool called eGain, where I'm pulling up that information. So I can mark this is done very quickly. I can check similar cases. So again, leveraging AI and generative AI, I can see other cases that are similar in nature, and hovering over this, I can look at different types of generative AI information from that case if I needed to leverage that. So I can check similar cases. And then finally, if I needed to collaborate, we have a native integration with Microsoft Teams here too. So if I wanted to perform case swarming and pull in other individuals into this case so I can get better ideas and kind of tackle this very quickly, I can do that and spin up a quick Microsoft Teams channel, leveraging my own Microsoft Teams integrate system. It will spin up my own case based upon that Microsoft Teams integration. So I'll mark this as done. The last step I want to show, and notice it automatically goes to the last step, is how we're able to connect this to SAP S/4HANA as well as field service management. So SG was alluding to this a little bit earlier, but this is actually tapping into our business technology platform and basically calling different types of systems. In this case, this is going to call and create a service order in S/4HANA. So I'm just going to specify the different types of repairs and installation, and I'll go ahead and hit next. Notice it's pre-filling a lot of this information for me, right? And I'll just kind of make my own reference number here too. But all I have to do here is hit save. What this is going to do is this is going to turn around and create that that service order in SAP S/4HANA, again, without me having to leave this screen, sign into another system, and do that. You can see that that service order has been created and released. And last but not least, so we've touched S4 as of right now. Last but not least, if I needed to turn around and go ahead and pull up who can perform that work from a service field service management perspective, this will allow me to go ahead and see who is available to go and perform that work. So this is touching or calling SAP field service management to showcase who can actually perform that work and at what time. And if I wanted to go ahead and book them, I can simply click on a time that works, go ahead and book. And now that FSM activity or that field service management activity has been assigned to Mike Anderson, and we're good to go there. From here, I would just simply go ahead and add solution details. I can then go ahead and complete and finish this step. Again, one of the things I haven't really tapped on that I'll take 2 seconds on mentioning is that this is all built on microservices. So notice that different types of workflow steps are already happening just by me completing this step, these steps of this cases. So an automatic email has been sent to the customer based upon that step being finished, right? And then from now, if we even wanted to embed a Qualtrics survey or something like that to send to the customer at the very end of this case, right, we can do that too. And I can just simply hit finish and be done with this case itself. So what I've done was I've gone from a sales perspective. I was able to take a lead from a lead all the way to an order in S/4HANA in less than 5 minutes. And then I was also able to take a case from that step 2 all the way to creating a service order and a field service management engagement and closing out that case in, let's see, less than 6 minutes. Again, talking to you guys the entire way I'm going. So I hope this was a good sort of preview. We're all obviously here to go into a lot more depth, but I appreciate your time, and I guess I'll throw it back to you, SG. I think you might be on mute.
Thank you, Brad. And Amit, if you can share the slide deck.
I'm sharing the slides again. Let me go to where
we do have one question coming in, Amit.
Yes.
So Sheldon.
When you guys were showing the ability to see the information in S4, will users require licenses in S4 to view that information?
Yes.
So can I caveat that a little bit, SG, if that's okay? So it does depend in a couple of certain different ways. So as you probably noticed in the screen that I showed, it was not showing an actual S4 screen, although it was receiving calling data or sending data there. That is because we utilize an SAP build app that would sort of negate the need for me to actually have a licensed user to create that transaction. It's a kind of a way around having a licensed user for every single access of S4. You could basically use a technical user to get it done, or so to SG's point, if you wanted to provide basically an iframe of S4 on that next step of the case, you could do that too. However, that would require a licensed access point into S4 in that situation. So it just does depend, but we can carve into that later if need be.
Thank you.
All right,
Right.
SG.
Thank you. So I would say, think about it like this. I would, if I actually get into the secret sauce behind the scenes, what's happening is all that you saw on Brian's demo, and first Brian, amazing work at that, is the user experience still remains one screen. So the user is not realizing when is it FSM in the backend or when is it S4 in the backend and when is it SAP Analytics Cloud. The user experience is consistent. But then the other important thing here is, I borrowed this slide from the product management team. As a customer, you don't care what's happening behind the scenes. But I wanted to showcase this and let you know that in the last 2 decades, if I've seen many softwares built by SAP, built externally, and so on. This definitely comes into the one of the best softwares ever designed. And the reason for that is obviously the advantage of time. By the time we finished creating Sales Cloud and Service Cloud V2, we had the access to all the latest and greatest technologies in the market. So the ability to create that microservice driven architecture gives you, firstly, the advantage of a lot of innovations, a lot of user experience, but also the lot of extensibility as a framework. To give you an example, you would have seen the ability for you to actually have in-app extensions. So think about extensibility. It's like very different from the way you would classically do an SD or a CRM on-prem kind of an implementation extensions. So firstly, you can do a lot of in-app extensions. You can do a lot of side-by-side extensions. And even within that, there are certain flavors. So to give you an idea of that, in-app extensions, so let's say absolutely low code, no code, you can start creating those workflows. You can start creating those validate. So let's say you want to do an opportunity and you want to validate that opportunity with a workflow, right? And create complex workflows around that. Or you want to create a case and you want to actually go ahead and bring in your own determination of the case on who is going to work on it and so on. So you don't need to do complex coding anymore for that. You can start getting into that in-app extensibility of using the validations and determinations and low code, no code. On the other hand, what you saw in that demo also was the S4 screen or screens coming in from a BTP platform. And all of that is a very powerful mashup based integration. And the ability of that mashup based integration is also you don't need to ship the data from one application to the other just to host the data, right? So there is reduction of redundancy, there is absolute innovation, both for SAP and non-SAP applications. So we have various other partners like, let's say, a MediaFly or Price Effects and so on, which integrates to the SAP tech stack. The ability to work with us on mashups with those entire tech stack and the ability to bring in that data seamlessly. That's the word here, seamlessly, such that the sales user or the service user is not even realizing what is happening, but the ability to infuse various user experiences connected to that particular business process is very powerful. And last but not the least, you saw what Brian mentioned about build apps, right? So we have this concept in SAP called clean code, not just for CX, but even for the S4 side of the world too, wherein we do not want you to go and start coding the heck out of what intrinsically is inside the application. We want you to do an extensibility or business technology platform. Again, various options there. So you can go for complete low code, no code to completely creating a new custom app. Let's say you want to build a completely custom service contract generation with maintenance plans, which is very unique to your industry. So let's say automotive industry, and you want to do a vehicle maintenance plan around it. And that's not standard in this application. It's relatively a lot easy to build that on BTP and infuse both the master data as well as the process integration with the user experiences into the application. And that is what I meant earlier by case for cloud. So allowing you to bring up your own innovations, allowing you to use our innovations at a very fast speed in this whole landscape. Lastly, The strength of SAP is not just about case for cloud and not just about innovations and AI and user experiences or whatever you've been seeing in the demos so far, but also the powerful end-to-end SAP's investment if you have an SAP landscape. So you could be on ECC or S for private cloud or S for public cloud. You could be using various elements of the SAP tech stack like SAP Marsus or Commerce Cloud or Configure Price Code. The ability for SAP Sales Cloud and Service Cloud to start working with all of this and bringing in both an element of end-to-end business process. So think about lead to cash or inquiry to resolution, or what you saw, for example, in the demo earlier, you start creating the experience from Service Cloud with a case, but then you start getting into the service confirmation and the service order and the order to cash with the invoice and the billing in S for, let's say, public cloud, and then transform that header data back for tracking back into Service Cloud as an example. Similarly, when you are trying to do a quote or an opportunity, the ability to do available to promise as a process and complete that process back in S4 with the same user experience and transform that insights there. So that's what I mean by process and master data integration. But there is a third aspect to all of this, which is intelligent experiences at the moment of consumption. So what I mean by that is, let's say a sales guy is going and meeting a customer, and that customer has a contract which is up for renewal or a high outstanding invoices. How do you actually capture those events in that moment of personalized experience and guide that salesperson in that journey? Similarly, let's say the customer calls the call center, or there is a service contract up for renewal in S4. When that particular customer calls the call center for, let's say, an install base repair, how do you actually guide that service agent with connected data with both back office and front office and make that interaction very powerful? So those are the new ways of transforming in the world of Sales Cloud and Service Cloud connected to your SAP stack. Lastly, this itself could take a couple of hours, just this slide, but understand that these are two friends which will work together. So you will need your SAP S4 stack when you're moving into the world of Rise or Grow with SAP private cloud or public cloud, working very closely with your sales and service cloud. So it's extremely critical that if you are going through in your organization an SAP Rise transformation or an SAP Grow transformation, to actually have this kind of a big picture of what you would do in the world of S4, what will you do in the world of Sales and Service Cloud, and how do you leverage business technology platform to infuse innovations of data, AI, and analytics across the whole spectrum. So that's an important, absolutely critical aspect of North Star design of architecture. So you could be an ECC today, and Amit will start covering these options soon. You could be an ECC today. What do you do now and immediately in the near future if you want to start getting into Sales and Service Cloud? Then if you are already on S4 or you're going through the transformation, what can you do with Sales and Service Cloud? One last thing, which is not the scope of this call today, but there is a completely new release which we've done this year with Sales and Service Cloud, which is around the Enterprise Service Management, ESM. So think about it like an extension of it's the same solution, the same platform of Sales and Service Cloud, but now that is for more shared services. So let's say finance as a process or HR as a process. So your internal service support for your HR team or your finance team connected to your S4 or connected to your HR processes. So that's the other big advantage which we see now, which is on one hand, you have your classical sales cloud, classical service cloud with whatever you saw, but even the enterprise service management working very closely. So my ask for all of you is, get yourself educated in this domain, reach out to us for deeper dives. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to Amit, who will take you through some of these scenarios and how we can help you.
Thank you, SG. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, as well, for a nice demo. I think my takeaway, SG and Brian, is that the new age solutions from SAP are definitely have, all of the capabilities to help our SAP CRM customers to kind of adopt and move to the cloud. Because as I said, one of the things that the customers liked about SAP CRM was this extreme customizability, and a lot of customers have, done whatever they want to in the stack. And now with the solutions that you have with SAP Build and the extensibility that comes in and outside, side by side, BTP as a platform seems like there's really a way forward for our SAP CRM customers to kind of move into this new world. So that's really awesome to hear. The rest of this deck is a little bit, I would say, a bit technical, so I'm going to go through it fast. I'm going to be obviously going to send this deck out to all of the colleagues who've registered for this webinar. But kind of covering what was on-prem and what's in the cloud, and kind of focusing a little bit on the CRM service side of the world, because again, a lot of customers used the CRM service solution, the on-prem solution, quite heavily. In the on-prem world, we had, primarily three solutions, right? We had the service manager, which was the field service kind of solution for SAP back then, the SAP CRM software itself, and of course, SAP ECC. Now, in the cloud world, this is translating to SAP FSM, SAP Service Cloud, as you just saw Brian demonstrate, and SAP S/4HANA, which you saw also embedded into Service Cloud, through the mashup capability. So when you look at a transformation from CRM service into the cloud, these are some solutions you have to consider. Now, there are various ways to go about doing this, which we will cover in a couple of slides from now. But again, if you are an SAP CRM service customer and you've implemented all of these great business processes that I have here on the left, here are, how you would consider moving them into the cloud with what we call as recommended target solutions. So some solutions, some of these, functionalities are very well covered within Service Cloud. For example, knowledge base, you could use, third-party solutions like NICE or eGain, as Brian mentioned. Or you could use SAP Build Workzone as well. SAP Build has its own, solution. If you've heard of SAP Jam, this is kind of the next iteration of SAP Jam. And then for some of the core back office service processes of, returns, claims, service contracts, in-house repair, you would ideally need an SAP S/4HANA service management solution. If you're in an interim state where you're still using SAP ECC, you could continue to manage some of those processes in there integrated with the front end. So this is kind of the solution map. And if you look at the object map, again, I won't spend too much time on technical stuff, but on the on-prem world, you have all of these different objects like the business partner and the individual object and the iBase. These are the equivalent objects in the Service Cloud and S/4HANA Service and SAP FSM, kind of showing you side by side how these objects get mapped. And same for transactions. So on the service side in CRM on-premise, you would have the interaction center with service requests and complaints and warranties and in-house repair and service orders and all of these other objects. In the cloud world, in the CX world, you have case in SAP Service Cloud, and a lot of the other capabilities are embedded inside S/4HANA Service. So it's nice to kind of consider this stack as one, service solution end to end, even though some of the objects may be residing in different solutions. There's a lot of seamless integration here. The end-to-end customer service to field service architecture is, this is kind of your target end state, that if you would like to move to a full-fledged service management solution, including, the omni-channel support, your core service operations, and then of course, field service, this is the, kind of the architecture that you could strive to achieve with case management in your, omni-channel support in your Service Cloud and core service operations using S/4HANA Service. And in an interim state, also supporting SAP ECC. If you're using customer service in SAP ECC, that can be supported. And then finally using SAP FSM for your field service execution, dispatching your engineers, doing appointment booking and things like that. So how do you do this? How do you move, right? So I've given you a couple of examples. Every customer situation is unique, right? We have to sit with our customers, understand their as-is, understand their complexity, how widely used the solution is it global in nature? Is it just a particular region? All of that influences, right? How you move from on-prem into the cloud. So if you go with kind of the concept of doing a pilot region or doing pilot functionalities, you could say, I just want to do case management. So I move case management into SAP Service Cloud. I'm still going to integrate with my SAP ECC solution and keep, my back office, until I do my S4 transformation still in SAP ECC. As a second step, you could say, okay, I've now that I've done case management, I'm still have my SAP CRM because I'm integrating with that for, let's say, field service scenarios, if you're a field service customer. But then you could say, okay, now I've moved my service request into cases in Service Cloud. My next step is to move my field service processes into SAP FSM. So you would still, utilize the service order service confirmation in your SAP CRM to kind of do that integration with SAP ECC. But now we are moving functionality in stages by being a little bit non-disruptive to your backend, right? So this is absolutely possible. And a step 3 is like, okay, now I'm ready to fully replace my SAP CRM, and I'm also starting my S4 transformation. So therefore, I discontinue my complete on-prem roadmap and move fully to the cloud, both on SAP Service Cloud, FSM, Field Service Management, as well as S4HANA Service, which can, of course, be either public cloud as a sidecar, or it could be, your full S4 transformation in the private cloud. So there are various ways to consume or move into S4 service, which is, of course, a whole different discussion. In terms of how do you roll it out? Should we do a pilot first? Should we do a rollout in waves? Again, there are so many options here that need to be brainstormed, and every customer is unique. But what we've seen very often is the need to start with the pilot first, because you are doing a transformation here. You're changing core on-prem to the cloud. So you want to start with the pilot and go with kind of that adoption wave of doing rollouts once the first region is fully live, right? So step 1, you do a pilot, you move CRM to Service Cloud, you move field service to SAP FSM, and potentially have an S4 service sidecar, or even move ECC to S4 service functionality as part of that pilot. That could all be one consuming, pilot transformation. And then you consider rollouts in waves, right? You go by region, you can go by countries within a particular larger region. So that's really, depends on what the customer wants to do. You could also do, for example, as I mentioned, in waves, functionality in waves, right? So you do, your desktop, your omni-channel first, and then you do your field service mobility as a second step. So again, to be discussed with every customer. But some questions you may want to, think about, and I won't go through all of these, but, typical questions is like, how customizes my CRM solution? Is this a chance to do a transformation versus just doing a lift and shift of, functionality into the cloud? Can I actually transform my service organization as part of this project, right? So those are some cool questions to ask yourselves when you embark on this journey. And there are a lot of technical questions here about IBases, IObjects, contract pricing, service pricing, and things like that. Again, specifically for service customers, but you have similar questions for SAP CRM sales customers. The strategy is, do you want to adopt more standard capability? Do you want to adopt SAP's AI strategy and utilize Gen AI and other aspects as you do this transformation? So really, what are we doing this project for? And what is the organizational impact? Really got to think about this very clearly. Who's impacted and how many users, how many groups, global, local impact as well, and make sure your stakeholders are aligned. So, really evaluate the organizational impact. VASS has come up with an assessment service here for any customers that are going through this journey. We do it very methodical, very, detailed. This can be a 4-week exercise. It can be a, 3-month exercise. Really depends on how complex the customer is and how detailed we want to get into kind of the transformational journey. But again, I'll leave this away for you. And that was really, the core of the material here. You can, take a picture of this to learn more. We've written a lot of blog posts around this, and we will continue kind of our webinar series as well, as Jody mentioned. But let me just take a pause. We have about 5 minutes here. Jody, open it up for Q&A. If there are any questions or anyone wants to ask, please unmute yourself. And SG, Brian, and I are here. We can also stay a few minutes longer if you'd like to stay.
Yes, if there are any questions, feel free to unmute and ask your questions, or if you don't want to ask them verbally, you can please feel free to put them into the Q&A section of the navigation bar. And then regarding the QR code, if you scan that QR code with your phone, it's going to take you to a very short form. I think it's 3 fields. And what that will do is it will allow us to stay in touch with you, send you our VIP invitations to our future webinars. We'll also send you links to all of our blog posts that we've published on this topic already, so that you can see, you know, what we've been covering and what we intend to cover over the next several sessions that we're going to plan. So we're open for questions. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions coming in, but we do have the presenters have given their information, and you're welcome to also, email anyone that's on this panel. I'm sure that they would be happy to answer questions at any time. So in the meantime, thank you, Amit. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, SG. And thank you everyone who attended today. We appreciate your participation, and we can't wait to see you next time.
VASS. Complex made simple.